Amazing.
And welcome to episode 185 of the most must-see, award-winning show to ever hit the Bedford TV airwaves, or any airwaves for that matter. North, south, east, west, backwards, frontwards, sideways, diagonally, any which way you look at it, all around the world. The Wrestling Connection. I am your host, your connection to the wrestling world, your Big Four pay-per-view champion, the perfect Ken. Your bro, Ken Hill, delivering all the news to you in wrestling, in pro wrestling today. Alongside me in the studio, the infamous Mr. Greg Dolan, and of course our lovely, our vivacious, our current WK Queen of pay-per-view champion, bereft of her championship, amazingly, Miss Julie Manugian. Now we have you two in the studio today. We have a lot to go over with. There's a lot of news to sort through today. I did
recognize.
Of course, we can't remember Nick. Whenever he can actually show up in the studio. But a cameo is always nice. All right. So anyway, like I said, we promised to deliver on some important Raw news leading into Raw pay-per-view No Mercy, which is coming up next Sunday. Not this Sunday, next Sunday on the 24th of September. So let's do that. Let's get into the Raw side of things right now. Now, one of the big Raw buildups is, of course, Roman Reigns versus John Cena. Now, these two have been kind of in a one-upsmanship in terms of verbal exchange, and in the ring. Both have faced off with Raw rookie Kurt Angle's long lost son, Jason Jordan. Both dispatching Jordan with relative ease, but both trying to do it in quicker time and more aggressively to prove that they are the better. To try and prove that they are the better man, or at the very least, Reigns did. Reigns has made it his personal mission to prove that he is above and beyond what John Cena could ever hope to be in his 15 years in WWE. Yet it took more time for Reigns to dispatch the rookie Jason Jordan than it did Cena, who in Reigns' mind only took took 20 minutes to beat, even though it really only took 12, 13. But again, this is Roman Reigns, never accused of being good on the mic or with numbers. So, and the thing is, that's one aspect of this. The other aspect, like I said, is the war of words these two have been embroiled in. But the thing is, while Cena has made great point after great point, like taking dig after dig at Reigns for his lack of character, for his lack of promo ability, for being completely misinformed, and on top of that, unoriginal, because a lot of the criticisms that Reigns has brought against Cena, he's going Hollywood, he hasn't had a good match in years, okay? He has to be carried to good matches. He buries his opponents. These are all accusations that either Cena has proven, especially in terms of the quality of his matches, Cena has either proven false over the last few years, or in terms of not being able to make it in Hollywood, which is an even bigger lie, because Cena's had several Hollywood projects over the last couple of years. He's got a lot of TV and movie projects going on right now. So Cena certainly has something of a footprint in Hollywood, which again shows just how misinformed Roman is in his criticism against Cena, and again how unoriginal he is, because you've had these same complaints brought up by The Miz, by AJ Styles, by Dean Ambrose. Okay, it doesn't paint Reigns in a good light when you have him basically going to the same well that AJ, like I said, that AJ, Miz, and Ambrose and others have gone to over and over again. It doesn't do Roman any favors. Okay, not to mention that, okay, Reigns has been struggling to say what's on his mind. You can tell he's always thrown off by what Cena has to say to him. Cena gets on Reigns, like I said, for his lack of promo ability. Cena gets on Reigns for, ignoring what the audience has to say about him, rather instead lashing out against them. All right, and rather coasting on his reputation rather than trying to make something of himself, and rather just coasting on the fact that WWE's upper management has his back. That's been Cena's big beef with Roman, and unfortunately, a lot of it's true, okay? And it's just made Roman look worse. I mean, people were expected to feel sorry for Roman because Cena's pointing all this out against him, but I think it's having the opposite effect. I think it's making us. I think anyone who's criticized Roman, particularly myself, I think we feel vindicated by this. The fact that you have someone as high up in Cena's position, someone like John, coming out and saying exactly what we've been saying about Roman for the past 3-4 years. The fact that he's been shoved down our throats. The fact that he hasn't connected with the WWE audience in all that time, despite every opportunity he's had. I mean, we feel vindicated because John realizes this too, and to an extent, WWE realizes this. The fact that, okay, we're not going to accept Roman for what he is. We're not going to accept the fact that Roman beat the Undertaker and seemingly retired him. All right, the fact that he comes out and says that this is his yard when he hasn't really done anything to prove it as such. So I take this to Julie. Do you honestly feel like that this whole war of words between Cena and Roman's been one-sided?
Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
It's one-sided because they don't give Roman enough of a script. So for sure, it's one-sided.
Well, I actually think that's part of the problem, is that they give him too much of a script to go by, and when he's struggling for words, he's struggling to remember that script, Cena has no problem pointing it out to him. Cena has no problem getting on Roman's case about forgetting what exactly to say.
Yeah. I mean, Cena absolutely steamrolls him on the mic.
Exactly. I think they need to let Roman just say what's on his mind. Okay, give him a few bullet points, maybe. Like give him a couple of guidelines here or there.
Yeah.
But other than that, just let the guy cut loose.
I agree. He needs to have a coach. And even though
I think honestly, I think a coach not named Vince McMahon, because
right,
I mean
exactly.
it's been well established that Vince is the one behind Roman's promos, and the fact that Roman is basically spouting all the same jargon that everyone else has spouted about Cena over the years, a lot, like I said, a lot of which has been either disproven or just completely false.
Right.
To begin with.
But everything you said about Roman is true. But at the same time, I still find myself rooting for the guy.
Yeah, but okay. Look, we all want these superstars to succeed. We all want them to reach that upper echelon. But
I still feel like you're right. He talks about it's his yard and what has he done lately to show it. But I still feel as though that he deserves the legacy. But he needs to step up. It's time now.
I mean, he has a legacy. Obviously, he has a legacy with his family. I mean, one of the biggest wrestling families there is.
Yeah.
I mean, the Rock's the Anawati wrestling family. Like I said, one of the biggest ones there is. One of the most expansive. But the point is, okay, legacy alone is not going to get you over with an audience. Okay, there are plenty of second and third generation superstars that really haven't gotten over on their own. Bo Dallas, Bray Wyatt, they're both in the same. They're brothers. They're in the same wrestling family. They really either haven't gotten over, or for some reason WWE doesn't see the potential in them. Same with Curtis Axel. Curtis Axel's a third generation superstar, just like Randy Orton. I mean, you look at another second generation superstar like Cody Rhodes, who's now having to reach outside of WWE to make a niche for himself in the wrestling world.
Right. I just want to tell you that I did find my belt.
There you go. There you
and
go.
My crown.
Good. As befitting a queen as you should be.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, like, the point I'm trying to make is, okay, legacy alone is not going to get you over with the audience, okay? Again, I mean, there's so many different tools that you need to utilize as a wrestler. You need charisma. You need promo ability. I mean, obviously in-ring ability, which Roman has in spades. Okay, I mean, let's not doubt that. Roman's put on some great matches over the years. But the problem is that all falls, it all becomes a moot point, like if he doesn't back it up on the microphone.
Right.
I mean, that's one of the essential tools. That's one of the big ones. And
well, that's why it's going to be a good match. I'll be looking forward to that one at No Mercy.
I hope it's going to be a good match. I get this I get the sinking feeling that, at least on Roman's side, they may go the whole Goldberg-Lesnar route from 04 right here. I really hope he doesn't mail it in. I really hope that this, like the fact that he's been, like you said, steamrolled the last couple of weeks, doesn't discourage Reigns into putting on as great a performance as he's capable of versus John Cena. Because even though this is impromptu, even though I think this is a match that could used, a couple months worth of build-up, not just like this one. Even they've had the time, obviously. But the point is, I just feel like this is just the beginning of the feud with them. I just feel like that with all the bombs that are being dropped between them, that this is not going to be just one and done at No Mercy. I feel like they're going to come back to this later on.
Okay.
But all right, so like I said,
all right.
But in that same vein, moving on to the other big part of No Mercy of Raw is Brock Lesnar versus Braun Strowman for the Universal title. Now, what's been interesting about this feud is that, and Paul Heyman acknowledged this past Monday on Raw, is that for the first time, for truly the first time since Lesnar came back to WWE in 2012, that he is the underdog going into a one-on-one feud. Now,
who's the underdog?
Brock Lesnar is.
Wow.
Now, I mean, you could say that against Goldberg, but at the same time, Goldberg had the shock value. We didn't know whether Goldberg could really go against Lesnar, and it wasn't until a couple of times after Goldberg steamrolled through Lesnar that we realized that Goldberg, at any age, still had Lesnar's number. But the point is now, you had Strowman, who's been built up over the last couple of years as the indomitable monster, the monster to beat on Raw and in WWE, for that matter. I mean, he's been made to look nearly indestructible, indomitable, has gone through just about anyone and everyone that he's gone up against, including Roman Reigns. Beating Roman Reigns at Fastlane, beating him in an ambulance match at Great Balls of Fire, okay, and even taking the tremendous beating, including the vehicular assault by Reigns with the ambulance, and managing to walk off under his own power, taking Big Show, a 420-pound Big Show, onto his shoulders and power slamming him through a steel cage and putting Big Show on the shelf, because now Big Show has to get hip surgery because of that injury. So Strowman's been made to look, he's been, again, the key word here, the word of the day, steamroll. He's steamrolled a path to Universal Championship. And like we said, for the last few weeks, every time he and Lesnar have gone into the ring, Lesnar's been laid out. And this week was no exception, whereas Lesnar called out Strowman, tried to get the jump on him with a suplex. As you can see here, this was after the suplex. Lesnar has that shocked look on his face. Strowman pops right back up, lays him out with another power slam. And how often have you seen this with Lesnar being on the short end of this?
Not often.
Not often at all.
And it happened fast.
It did, just like that. Just like that, Strowman laid him out, and now it's that. I mean, the betting odds are for Strowman to come out with the Universal Championship. I mean, it seems like it's being built up like that. It seems like that Lesnar is being built up as the underdog. You would think that, oh, hey, Lesnar comes away with a huge, seemingly impossible victory over Strowman. But I think it's time. I mean, look, you're getting into the final quarter of 2016 right here. Lesnar has no further scheduled appearances on Raw or in WWE, for that matter, for the rest of 2016. And you've got someone like Strowman who's young, who's healthy, who's hungry, who's every bit the monster and big man that I think Vince wants in WWE right now. I mean, to make an early prediction, I I have to go with Strowman. I think it's time. I think it's time to give Braun the run with the Universal Championship. I mean, he's done everything in his power to put himself in this position, and I think it's time. I say give Braun the strap. I say give him the run. I mean, okay, you're for some godforsaken reason they're still going with the whole Jinder Mahal experiment. Okay, why not go with an experiment that will be more a Frankenstein experiment that will be more or less guaranteed to give you some success and have it like an indomitable champion atop, and whoever would somehow manage to knock off Strowman would look that much better for having been able to knock someone like him off his pedestal. That's all I gotta say. Now, one last piece of Raw news, well, more like NXT to Raw news, is the surprise announcement that, well, now former NXT Women's Champion, the longest reigning NXT Women's Champion, the longest reigning NXT Champion, the undefeated longest reigning NXT Champion, the woman who even shattered Goldberg's undefeated streak when he was coming up through WCW, Asuka. Asuka is formally announced as coming to Monday Night Raw. Now, we don't cover NXT as often as I'll admit that we probably should. But Asuka, I mean, she's just been made. She's the female Brock Lesnar, or female Braun Strowman in this case. She has steamrolled through all the competition in NXT. Through former women's champion Mickie James, through Ember Moon, through former champions like Bayley, like Nia Jax. Every single opponent that has come Asuka's way, she's flattened. And I mean, she's truly been unstoppable, because the only reason she had to relinquish the NXT Women's Championship was because of an unfortunate shoulder injury. And even that's not going to require surgery. She's going to be healed up in due time, and she'll be making her debut on Raw soon enough. And I gotta say, I think it's overdue. I think you need someone like Asuka, who's a legitimate women's wrestler on Raw, because right now the scene there, I mean, you basically have another multi-women's match, in this case on the Raw side. Because now you've got Emma, you've got Nia Jax, you got Sasha Banks, who's, let's look at it like this, okay? Sasha Banks is for lack of a better term, a paper champion. I mean, I hate to say that about someone like Sasha, who's one of my.
What do you mean when you say paper champion?
She can't hold the champion. She never holds on to it in a title rematch. Every time she wins it at a pay-per-view or on Raw, she always loses it in the rematch.
Right.
Every single time. 4-time women's champion, four-time loser. She's lost it every single time, whether it's been to Charlotte or to Alexa Bliss. So, I mean, the fact is they've been playing hot potato with the Raw Women's title again. I mean, this is the same situation as it was last year between Sasha and Charlotte. You're playing hot potato with the championship. That doesn't do it any favors. You need to have a solid reign from one of these women to give the championship some legitimacy. And at this point, I'm starting to think that Asuka is the only one who could help bring some of that legitimacy to the women's championship. I think whoever's the champion by the time she makes her debut, Asuka's just going to run through them and then she'll probably hold it for she may very well hold it for as long as she held the NXT Women's Championship. She may very well lose it when she wants to lose it. I mean, we heard so many times Paul Heyman brag about Brock Lesnar holding the WWE Championship or the Universal Championship and saying Lesnar will give it up when he wants to give it up. That Asuka legitimately gave up the championship only because she got injured and not because someone beat her for it. So, I mean, let me ask you, Julie. I don't know if you've been watching NXT. I don't know if you've been watching the Mae Young Classic. I mean, all these different women coming up and Asuka coming up to the main roster.
I wish I had been. It's exciting. I'm happy to see that she's coming on to Raw because that is Raw and SmackDown are the ones I watch the most. So I'm excited to get to know her.
I know. I mean, if you really want to get to know her, I mean, obviously you got NXT and the WWE Network, but I mean, I'm hoping that she changes things up, and I hope that they don't just diminish her as soon as she hits the roster, because like she's been one of the best things to come up from NXT. And I mean, I know I say, I mean, it's in the same vein as Sasha and Charlotte and Bayley and others, but this I think is their best chance to really put a stamp on the women's division on either brand. I mean, because you have the closest thing to like a legit competitor coming up to WWE. Then they need to capitalize on that. All right, so changing gears a little bit. I mentioned the Mae Young Classic. 32 of the top women in professional wrestling today, wrestling for that top, to show that they are the top female performer in the world. And who came out on top? Well, Miss Kairi Sane. Of course, Kairi Sane, also a Japan native, just like Asuka. Kairi, known for her, I mean, you have to watch it. I mean, she has a picture-perfect elbow drop, a top rope elbow drop. Just, I mean, it's like it evokes memories of Macho Man. Just how perfectly she'd pull it off, and I love it. And she had an amazing finals match against Shayna Baszler, one of MMA's 4 horsewomen, alongside Ronda Rousey. A great match with a brutal technician in Shayna Baszler versus the charisma of Kairi Sane, and it was a great finals match. I'm honestly surprised Kairi won. I was almost expecting Shayna to get the win just because of the whole rumored, 4 horsewomen of MMA versus the 4 horsewomen of WWE feud being built up, which I was extremely fascinated by. But I'm happy for Kairi. I mean, supposedly with the NXT Women's Championship vacant, Kairi will be involved in the women's division in NXT in some shape or form, and I think it's great. She's got great personality. Like I said, she's got a great moveset. She's got the whole pirate motif going for her. I mean, who doesn't love pirates? Go Buccaneers.
Good job, Ken. And their home opener is tonight.
It is. And
go Bucks.
So go Bucks. All right. So, but all in all, like I said, good for Kairi. I bring it around to you, Julie. I mean, how do you feel about having someone with the charisma of Kairi Sane, not only winning the Mae Young Classic, but coming up to NXT?
Again, I think it's great, just like they're trying to do with Raw. Obviously, 1-1.
Mm-hmm.
One going to Raw, one going to.
Well, she's not going to SmackDown. She's coming up to NXT.
Okay, gotcha.
She's going to NXT.
Well,
That's what I mean.
This
she's
is
going to be.
What they're doing. It's like graduating. It's like waiting to see, the next gen.
Well, no, that's the point. She's going up to NXT.
Got it. Yeah.
And then at some point she'll either come up to Raw or SmackDown. So that'll be the main point. NXT helps breed the next big superstar for either Raw or SmackDown.
It's smart by the WWE.
Right. Okay. But speaking of SmackDown, the big news.
The big news.
The big shocking news.
I wish I had a drum roll ready for you. This is huge. There you go.
Was the encounter between Vincent Kennedy McMahon and one Kevin Owens. Now, KO had been making a lot of hoopla about how he was going to sue the McMahon family for Shane. Hoopla. Threatening to sue the McMahon family for Shane assaulting him last week. Shane, of course, that was coming after KO said some very disparaging remarks about Shane, about how he should have perished in a helicopter accident, how his family would be better off without him. Shane taking great offense to that, assaulting KO, and unfortunately being suspended as, obviously someone in an authority role as Shane cannot put his hands on a superstar like Kevin Owens. Now KO tried to make the show this week all about him. Vince, however, would have none of that. Now, this was at the end of the show. This was the top of the second hour. Vince making it clear to KO that if he tried to take any sort of legal action against the McMahon family, not only would he be fired on the spot, but KO would also, most likely, go bankrupt trying to pursue a case against Vince and the rest of the McMahons.
He said B for billionaire and B for bankrupt.
Exactly. I mean, okay, and Vince has not lost many cases. Maybe he did lose one to a panda bear in the late 90s, early 2000s, but aside from that, you really can't win a battle of the courts with Vince McMahon. It's just not smart. I mean, I did find it a little scrupulous that I did find it a little disconcerting how he brought up that, okay, the system's made for men like him. I mean, not exactly a good way to endear yourself to the 99%. But again, that's Vince for you. But the point is, okay, this led to, of course, Vince making a match. I think the match we all saw coming with Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon at Hell in a Cell, and so that Vince, in Shane's words, could get the job done, which was exactly the reason why Vince actually suspended Shane, was because he didn't get the job done last week against Kevin Owens. So KO was fine with that. He was fine with the match, and had Vince make the promise that he wouldn't take any sort of action against KO if KO were to take his aggressions out on a McMahon who, in KO's mind, provoked him, such as Shane did last week, and Vince agreed to that. However, he didn't seem to realize that, okay, Vince more or less provoked KO with the fact that he would threaten to bankrupt and fire him, and KO came after Vince with a vicious headbutt. A vicious headbutt.
There it is.
There it is, right there. Followed by a couple punches, a super kick, and then a frog splash.
Unbelievable.
And you have to understand, this is a 72-year-old man taking all these bumps, taking all these spots, which is insane.
That picture's unbelievable. And
that's called I think that picture speaks for itself.
And what's that move called again?
A frog splash.
I love it.
Or in Owens' case, a bull frog splash.
There you go. Bump.
Yeah. Well, no, that's what he's called himself. So I can't take all the credit for that one. But again, and this just goes how far Vince is willing to go to sell a spot like this, to sell a feud like this, is putting himself in the line of fire. But at the same time, it's such an unnecessary risk for someone at his age, of his stature, to be taking this sort of risk. And not to mention, I mean, supposedly, the other reason why Vince legitimately took that headbutt that you could see busted him open. Now, if you look very closely, if we can go back to the headbutt for a second.
Yep, you got it. Let's go
I
back
mean,
to that.
that busted him open right on the spot where his. The fact that Owens headbutted that very spot right in the middle of his forehead, that busted him open. That seemingly busted him open the hard way, yet it was reported that Vince cut himself on that spot right there, used what they call new skin, which is basically like liquid bandage, like skin-colored liquid bandage, put it right over the spot, and told Owens during the promo, headbutt me hard here, as hard as you can. And that busted him open. The fact that he would go that far just to have that spot done, just to help build heat for the Shane KO match at Hell in a Cell, it's just crazy. My small beef with this, though, is once again, and because all of this resulted not only in agents coming down to help Vince, but Stephanie making her first appearance since WrestleMania.
Right.
Making her appearance on SmackDown. And it's clear that she's going to have words for Owens to fall next week. But again, that goes back to my beef from last week. The fact that, okay, once again, we're having the McMahons involved, in a front and center on-air role in a feud. Okay, yes. Did Shane did they get kind of thrown into the mix right here with Shane's words from, with KO's words from last week? Yes, okay. So you knew the family was going to be involved in some shape or form. But I'm just saying, okay, don't make them the front and center of this. Vince was in rare form this week as Mr. McMahon. But okay, whenever Stephanie's part of a feud, I think it's just her. She drags things down. Because, okay, realistically, okay, in this day and age, okay, obviously Owens can't do to her what he did to Vince. Okay? Whereas they had the serious shock value here and KO going after the boss. Okay? This isn't like when Randy Orton went against the McMahon family in 2009. Okay? It's nothing like that. Because the problem is where you had Orton lay out Stephanie with an RKO and plant a very unnerving, uncomfortable kiss on her in front of her husband. Okay, you can't have KO do anything like that to Stephanie today just because of how much man-on-woman violence is frowned upon.
Right.
So whereas again, this is what I'm talking about, the roller coaster emotion right here. You're gonna have the big shock-to-shock, loop-to-loop value of KO going after Vince, and then it's just gonna crash land right here and plateau with Stephanie. It's gonna be a low point because all it's gonna be is a one-sided war of words with Stephanie more or less emasculating KO on the microphone.
Oh yeah.
That's all it's going to be, and it's not going to do anything to help the feud. All right, I don't think that's going to do anyone any favors. So, if they are going to have Stephanie involved, it needs to be a one and done promo, and it has to be an exchange. It can't just be Stephanie railing on KO. It's got to be an exchange of words between the two.
Oh, I'm sure he won't let that happen.
It has to happen. It has to go down that way. Otherwise, no one's going to care about this because Stephanie can win a feud on her own on the microphone if KO's not going to say anything.
This is going to be a good one. I'm excited.
I'm curious. I'm curious to. I'm a little excited. Curious to see where this whole thing was going to go.
This is going to be next Sunday, September 24th.
Right. No mercy. But whatever's going to go down with Stephanie and KO is going to happen next Tuesday.
Oh, right.
Right.
But it'll
this coming
into it,
Tuesday.
yeah.
Okay. This coming Tuesday.
Got it. The 19th.
Right.
Yep.
And then not this coming Sunday, but next Sunday.
Yep.
Is No Mercy.
Yep.
All right. So now let's see. Is there anything that I've missed? All right. We covered Strowman and Lesnar. We covered Cena and Reigns. Covered Asuka. We've covered Kairi. obviously we had the big news right here with KO and Vince. I think actually we've touched on just about everything. So Julie, what did you think about this segment? Do you feel like Vince went too far in trying to kind of build anticipation for Owens versus Shane?
I thought it was awesome, only because I just enjoyed the drama of it. Did he go too far? Yeah, I couldn't believe that headbutt. And then, the way he beat him up after, like you and I were talking about off air, I thought, was that fake? Was that real? It looked real, that headbutt. And I just loved the two of them on the mic before. That was just scandalous and a lot of fun. It's the high drama. It was an unbelievable wow moment.
Vince on the mic in the last couple of years can come off as sounding, awkward, stilted. It doesn't really sound like, the same brash, bold Mr. McMahon that we've seen.
Yeah, he's a little tired, a little slower.
Exactly, but here he was certainly in rare form.
Yeah, this is going to go down as one of the top 10 moments of the WWE history, don't you think?
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Top 15, top 20.
Okay, it was a great moment. I think what's interesting about this, and an understated moment, is that how overdue something like this was. Because if you've kept track of Owens' career, like I have, if you go back to his days in Ring of Honor, Owens has never been one for going with the grain of authority. He was always put in situations where his career was on the line. He always took it against authority. He always went against them for the fact that, at one point he was put in a career-threatening match, and he takes it out on the authority in Ring of Honor because, supposedly it was their fault for him losing his job in the first place. So he railed against them. He brings in a group to rail against, authority figures in Ring of Honor. Then he does, and then when he comes to WWE, when he came into NXT, he took shortcuts to the NXT Championship. He went against the wishes of NXT General Manager William Regal. Then, ironically, he ends up siding with the authority, with Triple H, with Stephanie McMahon, winning the Universal Championship and screwing over the former pet project of the authority, Seth Rollins. And yet that really never seemed like a proper fit for Kevin Owens. And yet now we see him railing against a fair authority figure like Shane McMahon, bringing higher authority figures like Vince McMahon into the feud along with Stephanie. And you would have to think that somewhere down the line, if Vince and Stephanie are already involved, Triple H is likely going to get involved too.
Oh yeah.
You have to think that's going to happen because, it could be that. I think it could end up culminating at somewhere down the line at WrestleMania, because you have Triple H coming to realize that, my God, what did I do creating someone like Kevin Owens, putting him in a position of power like I did, giving him the Universal title. And the fact now that he's willing to go to any length to achieve that success, because to achieve that kind of success again, even if it means going against the very people who gave him that opportunity, Triple H will realize this, and I think I have to destroy what I created. Similar to what he felt like he had to do with Seth Rollins. Now, I think that's a very fascinating aspect. Now, is this the best that I've ever seen Kevin Owens? I would go and say yes, because, yes, he had a fantastic debut with John Cena back in 2015. He's had several championship opportunities and runs with the U.S. title, with the Intercontinental title, with the Universal title, with the NXT championship. So he's certainly got more than his fair share of opportunities with championships. And now that he's on the outside looking in, he doesn't like that. He doesn't like me on the outside looking in, and he's willing to take it out on anyone and everyone except for himself. Even going against the people who gave him, like I said, gave him those opportunities to begin with. So do I think this is leading to something bigger for Owens? I certainly hope so. Because this is the same Owens I saw come up through Ring of Honor. This is the same Owens that enamored me to, like, you know, to his sort of character. The character that will just go through anyone and everyone to achieve the sort of success that he feels like he deserves. So to answer your question, I am looking forward to this.
I agree.
And very much so.
I agree.
I think this does have the potential to be one of the better storylines of the last couple of years.
I agree. I'm excited. It's crazy.
I'm excited to see where this one goes to. All right. So, but in the meantime, that's all for episode 185 of the Wrestling Connection. Next week will be episode 186. Will be our No Mercy pay-per preview. All right, so like I said, so it's supposed to be a very packed show that will have a lot of predictions to go over. Of course, like I said, we have Braun Strowman versus Brock Lesnar for the Universal title. First time ever, Roman Reigns versus John Cena. We have the Raw Tag Team titles on the line with Ambrose and Rollins versus the former champion Cesaro and Sheamus. We have a fatal four-way for the Raw Women's Championship. Like I said, Emma versus Nia Jax versus Sasha Banks versus the Women's Champion Alexa Bliss. So among others. So we will have a lot to sort through next week. And will I be cashing this baby in next week? It remains to be seen.
I don't know. Or will I be keeping this baby for next week?
Oh, we'll find out, won't we? All right, but in the meantime, for Mr. Greg Dolan, for Miss Julie Manugian, for the Wrestling Connection and Bedford TV, I am Ken Hill, your Big Four pay-per-view champion, reminding you, as always, to be connected, get connected, stay connected. See y'all next week.
I've heard it too many times
to ignore it. It's some things that I'm supposed to be. Someday we'll find it. The Wrestling Connection. The lovers, the dreamers, and me.